Hello friends, welcome. Friends, we all know that the government of India came out with a proposed notification for delicensing a portion of the 6 GHz band. Now I'll show you the notification which the government of India came out. So this is the notification and this came out on 16th of May 2025 for public consultation. So these are the proposed rules for the 6 GHz band, and now there will be debate and discussion going on in the public domain whether to increase or lower these power transmission limits. Now friends, this might look like a technical video, but I will like to elevate the discussion to a level that even common man can understand. And let me start by laying out the framework. Now friends, we already know that we use home Wi-Fi in our country. So there are two different bands which is enabling home Wi-Fi, which are 2.4 GHz band as well as 5 GHz band. Now, in 5 GHz band, the government of India came out with a new set of rules just around 3-4 years back, which enabled outdoor operations also. Means you can use the 5 GHz band to transmit signal outside and provide different type of services, and they are being now used by the ISP operator as well as by the mobile operators, right? Now, because these two bands, 2.4 GHz band and 5 GHz band, had limited quantum of spectrum, and with new technology coming up, which is called Wi-Fi 7, which can use these two bands as well as the new band, which is the 6 GHz band, for which the notification has been released for public consultation. They can use all these three bands in a carrier aggregated manner to enable better quality, faster Wi-Fi. Now, friends, the new set of rules which are proposed by the government for 6 GHz band Wi-Fi has got certain limitation, and they are different from the 5 GHz band from a power transmission point of view. If you see, the power limits are quite limited. Standard power is not allowed. Even 53 dBm point-to-point outdoor is not allowed. And the power emission density is also limited quite. And therefore, now what has happened is that there could be a possibility of lobbying between different type of stakeholders who are interested in enabling the 6 GHz band with same empowerment as they have already done in 5 GHz band, which has got full flexibility to use not only indoor but also outdoor. But this whole lobbying effort or the battle of lobbying of 6 GHz band is what I am going to lay out before you in this video. Which stakeholder is going to do what, and what kind of constraints that exist in 6 GHz band, which will prevent some of the effort by some of the stakeholders to empower this band with more flexibility. So that's the whole purpose of this video, friends. So friends, as usual, I have created a slide deck, and this is going to be a little bit of deep dive, but I will elevate the discussion to a higher level so that the common man can also, or common person who doesn't have any technical details, can also understand, because this is going to be a pretty important presentation, friends. So just be with me. So the battle of 6 GHz, power interference and national interest, right? So this is very, very important. The title is Understanding the Risk and Stakeholder Conflicts Around Delicensing of 6 GHz band. So this is going to be the battle of power level changes. Current rules do not have the same level of flexibility as 5 GHz band, which I told you in my opening remarks. Now, India's experience with delicensed spectrum 2.4 and 5 GHz band. Now we know, as I told you, India has already delicensed 2.4 and 5 GHz band to promote Wi-Fi usage. This led to proliferation of home Wi-Fi network as well as wireless roaming devices. It enabled various type of applications and flexibility in connecting phone, laptop, TV, smart devices. And there is no dependency on telecom operator, and it is fast plug and play, and it has got very, very seamless experience, and everybody is using Wi-Fi, even though you have got optical fiber being enabled into your house. Because to extend those optical fiber connection, the broadband connection into your devices, which will be connected in a wireless fashion, you are not have to depend on the mobile operator. So look at this picture and you will get an idea. The 2.4 gigahertz band has got a total 80 megahertz of spectrum, and 5 gigahertz band is broken into two pieces. It starts with 5150 to 5350, 200 megahertz, and then there is a gap of 120 megahertz, and then 5470 to 5875 with 405 megahertz, and different channel sizes are permitted. Now, in one of my video, I told you how Wi-Fi operates. Even if you have this full block of spectrum, you cannot use this block simultaneously. You have to choose a channel size, which I mentioned here, depending upon how much interference exists in that particular block of spectrum, because it's an uncoordinated use. You pick a channel size, 20 megahertz, 40 megahertz, 80 megahertz, or 160 megahertz. If the band is relatively free, because these are power limitation, it does not propagate far, you can choose a channel size depending upon what kind of interference exists. Higher the channel size, better will be the power transmission capability, right? So that is what is the typical Wi-Fi technology. Now, friends, use of 5 gigahertz band by ISP and TSP for fixed wireless. Now, this has been a recent phenomena, friends, because fixed wireless, which is extending broadband connectivity through wireless, was first enabled by 5G. The operators has started using 3.5 gigahertz band. So this is called air fiber, because 5G has the capability to provide, create a slice within 3.5 gigahertz band to give quality of service. So broadband and high-speed connectivity was enabled, and both Reliance Jio as well as Bharti Airtel has been selling FWA connection, everybody knows. Now, because the capacity of that band is limited and the end terminal prices are high, so the operators became more motivated to use the unlicensed 5 gigahertz band also for FWA. They call this technology called UBR, unlicensed band radio. And Reliance Jio, in one of the statement they made to the stock market, said that their UBR is so successful that it can do home broadband and can do synchronous uplink and downlink speed of 1 Gbps. So they have been very, very successful in implementing UBR in 5 gigahertz band. Now, there is one thing which 5 gigahertz band does, which is beyond the standard power, which is called 53 dBm backhaul point-to-point link. This is called middle haul, right? And these are enabled only in certain blocks of spectrum, depending upon the need for coexistence, because there are certain services ISRO and other people are existing to ensure that there are no interference and there are no side lobes which penetrate into the services. These are enabled using certain restriction of how much side lobes powers are permitted, and the beam has to be extremely pointed point to point only. This is 53 dBm is enabled, which is more than the standard power of 36 dBm, with a power spectral density of 30 dBm per megahertz. So what is power density? Power density is that the total power that you transmit can be measured depending upon what kind of bandwidth you are transmitting. For example, let's say if you have a total channel size of 160 megahertz and you are transmitting a certain power level of 53 dBm. Now, if you want to transmit the same power within a smaller channel size, then what will happen? Your power density will increase. Means 53 dBm now will be a smaller channel size. So in order to prevent spikes of power, huge spikes of power, there are certain limitations which has been kept on power spectral density, which is 30 dBm per 500 kilohertz in case of when you are transmitting 53 dBm. And different blocks with different usages or different rules have different power density. And this power density was quite relaxed, and therefore certain new applications which emulate Bluetooth has been exploited by Apple, which I am going to show you later in my presentation. So it enables long range, narrow band, high power transmission. Operators deploy low cost broadband without fiber in underserved areas, right? So this is the structure of the 6 gigahertz band rule. And viewers can pause the presentation and in the video and have a look. So you look at, if you see this, there are 4 different blocks, right? The first block is 100 megahertz, which is 5150 to 5250. This has got a standard power of 36 dBm with a 30 dB plus 6 dB antenna gain and a power density of 17 dBm. And for backhaul point to point in the same block of spectrum, 30 plus 23 dBm, which is 53 dBm plus a power density of dBm of 500 kilohertz of 30 is permitted. Next block, which is 5250 to 5350, 100 megahertz. Then here you are not allowing standard power. You are allowing only up to 30 dBm with a power density of 11 dB, and you are not allowing backhaul here, right? Which is point to point. Again, after the gap of that 200 megahertz, 120 megahertz, it starts from now 5470 to 5725, which is 255 megahertz. Here also you are allowing 30 dBm with a 11 dB of a power density, and backhaul is not allowed, which is point to point. And then from 5725 to 5875, you are allowing of 150 megahertz, you are allowing 36 dBm, and these rules are similar to what you saw here. So this is on a high level. Those people who wanted to go into deeper can look into it, and other people can skip this particular part, right? Now, this is important. Apple's use of AWDL to exploit 5 gigahertz band. And I'm going to give you a little bit of overview here, this is pretty important. And these are nuanced things, friends, which people will not understand. And therefore, just listen to this video very carefully. Now, Apple uses a relaxed power density to EIRP in 5 gigahertz band to deploy Apple wireless direct links. Now, friends, there is a concept called Bluetooth, which we use in 2.4 gigahertz band, which I'm going to explain in my, as we move forward in this presentation. So what Apple did was it extended the Bluetooth capability or the Bluetooth standard technology in the 2.4 gigahertz band, in the 5 gigahertz band, to do some things which is extra, because Bluetooth was always for low transmission data. Apple used it for very, very high transmission data, file transfer, and then peer-to-peer transfer, where they were detecting their Apple devices, those the air devices, which you can put in the bag to kind of find out location. So those protocols which Apple developed to bypass the conventional network to provide certain services which were not possible otherwise, right? You have to depend on the mobile operator. So this is called Apple Wireless Direct Link. AWDL is a proprietary protocol combining Wi-Fi and Bluetooth point-to-point services. Applications include AirDrop, AirPlay, Sidedoor, and various kind of applications. You are all aware of it. It enables long-range device discovery and content sharing without internet and operators' involvement. Operates independently on iPhone, iPad, and iMac, etc. But this has got huge implication, friends, and you have to just be with me to understand the implication of AWDL in 6 gigahertz band rulemaking. Now, Wi-Fi performance degradation due to AWDL. Now, friends, if you go to the internet, you will find various articles written by various people when what they are saying is that conventional Bluetooth was not supposed to work in 5 gigahertz band. The Bluetooth was working in 2.4 gigahertz band, and it was bursty in nature, but the burst, the power of the burst were limited without having to degrade the Wi-Fi capability of the band, and how it degrades, we are going to talk about. But what happened was Apple extended this to 5 gigahertz band and probably using, I'm not too sure about this, 10 to 20 megahertz slice of spectrum, which is much shorter block of spectrum with high powered, transmission capability. And because the power density limitation in the 5 gigahertz band are relaxed, they were not bursting the power density requirement, and still they are able to use those bursty nature of those packets, which keeps repeating itself within that particular block of spectrum to deliver those services, and it causes interference in the 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi channel, right? And I'll tell you why it causes interference in the next slide. It leads to increased latency, reduced throughput, and Wi-Fi signal drought. Apple use of proprietary signal bypass the normal, coexistence protocol, and Bluetooth traditionally is limited to 2.4 gigahertz band. Now, this chart, friend, is pretty important. AWA conflict explained. Now, here I have used the conventional Bluetooth channel, friends, not the Apple AWA, because I don't understand Apple and I don't know anybody understands it or not. It is quite a limited proprietary technology, not in the public domain. Now, friends, if you look at this is the 2.4 gigahertz band, right? In the 2.4 gigahertz band, you got 80 megahertz, right? You can have 20 megahertz of channel. So what happens is that conventional wireless LAN will pick a channel depending upon how much interference that channel has at that particular point of time. So let's say if a wireless one has picked a 20 megahertz of channel here, right? And once it picks, it remains there. It does not flips. Though the frequency hopping technique kind of, keeps changing the channel, but it does not happen immediately. But Bluetooth is a very narrow, bursty channel. it will keep on shifting, in a very fast manner within this full block of spectrum of 80 megahertz. So what will happen is that it will overlap with the Wi-Fi channel, right? And it will happen continuously. So this has a potential causing of interference in the Wi-Fi channel because Bluetooth is running, superimposed on the Wi-Fi channel. So if this bursts are of high power, then it happen that what will happen? This Wi-Fi channel will have their power, the capability or the data transmission capability of the Wi-Fi channel will get limited, and that is exactly what happens in case of Apple, because what Apple did was this nature of Bluetooth, which is kind of keeps hopping, in a very, very fast time scale, has been emulated in 5 gigahertz band with a very, very high peaky burst, because the bandwidth has been limited and the power transmission is very high, though the power density limits are not crossed, but there is a potential interference in the Wi-Fi channel, and that the people have started seeing, right, as experiencing. So this is the Apple thing. Second is the telco strategy of combining 5 gigahertz band, 3.5 gigahertz 5G FWA with 5 gigahertz UBR, which I've already explained to you. So I'll just skip this slide. So in order to make sure that the Wi-Fi, the FWA prices can go down, because Wi-Fi devices are typically cheaper, right? So DOT's proposal of delicensing the 6 gigahertz band. Now, if you want to have a look at a overview of 6 gigahertz band, this is the chart I have in my website. If you see that this is a full 1200 megahertz spectrum, out of which from 6425 to 7125 is for IMT, and from 5925 to 6425 is for delicensing Wi-Fi. So there is a 500 megahertz block which is basically being called up for delicensing, right? So this is 6 gigahertz band. Now, what DOT has done, they have basically, called for delicensing of 6 gigahertz band, which is the 500 megahertz, and they have done it for indoor and wearable devices with very, very low power, right? This standard power and 53 dBm is not permitted. And why it is not permitted? Because the 6 gigahertz band, the portion that I am explaining to you or that I showed you, this particular portion, 500 megahertz, is heavily used by ISRO, right? ISRO satellite and geostationary satellite. And I'm going to explain to you what kind of implication it will have, right? Now, why ISRO needs 6 gigahertz band protection? Now, ISRO, as I told you, is using the full block of spectrum, 5925 to 6425, which is the 500 megahertz. These are geostationary uplink, Earth to space. Means whatever is transmitting on ground, the receiver on the satellite is wanting to receive that signal. The satellite reception is open. So any coexistence happen in the same block of spectrum will cause interference in the satellite, which I'm going to explain in the next slide. There are various types of applications here. Geostationary satellite covers a large footprint and they are prone to interference. Even the side load interference from high EIRP, Wi-Fi or point-to-point links can degrade the performance. This is the chart, friend. So there is a satellite here, right, which is geostationary. And because it is geostationary, the footprint of the satellite is pretty large. So what happens is that this satellite is receiving signals from the ground here. So this receiver here is open for receive. Normally, it will receive signal from ground station, which are ISRO stations. Now, let's assume that there will be Wi-Fi devices which are all spread over here, which are transmitting at high power, and it has got a lot of side lobes. Now, it is possible that side lobes can start emanating power into the satellite. Now, one device is not going to create a problem. But if there are thousands and millions of devices here within this footprint, because these are thousands of kilometers footprint, because of geostationary, this is 36,000 kilometers of the Earth. And since there are only a couple of satellites, the footprint is very large. So the interference from multiple devices is going to be additive here. And that's why the power limitations are extremely important in case of 6 gigahertz band. So if you look at the indoor low power Wi-Fi design, and the power has been captured in this table, clearly points to the fact that this has been done to protect ISRO. Because in the 5 gigahertz band also, there are band specific where different power levels are permitted in order to enable that coexistence. But here the interference looks like the interference likely to cause interference is very, very high. So if you see here, there are two different modes which are allowed in case of 6 GHz band. One is the low power indoor mode, another is the very low power outdoor mode. Now, in case of low power indoor mode, we are not allowing standard power. We are only allowing 30 dBm with a channel size of 320 megahertz and with a power density of 5. And I'm going to explain to you why this power density is going to become a limiting factor for Apple, which I'm going to explain to you. Now, in case of low power, outdoor, because these are actually calculated in watts. That's the only difference. In low power outdoor mode, the power density is kept at -5. The maximum power transmission is 14 dBm in the channel size of 320. Now, why these two different types of power mode? The low power indoor mode for Wi-Fi router and low power outdoor mode for wearable devices, right? Which you wear in your hands, right? Like, for example, any kind of health device, health monitoring device, etc., you wear in your hand. Now, let's say if this band is going to be used for those Apple proprietary Bluetooth technology, let me just show you what will happen. So this is the Excel sheet that I have in front of you. Here I have used the channel. This is the outdoor, right? This is for the outdoor. I have used 80 megahertz. Now, if I change this to, let's say, 10 megahertz, you see that the power density becomes 2.51, which is much higher than the power density that is permitted, which is 0.32 watts, which is -5 dBm, right? So that is where the problem is. You can't use, very, very short, sharp channel. You have to use a large channel, or you have to reduce the power so that you don't burst this 0.32 watts per megahertz. That's where the limitation would be, and it has been done specifically to prevent degradation of Wi-Fi performance and the interference that it might cause to the satellite, because multiple such devices can aggregate and then start causing interference in the satellite, right? Now, why 6 GHz is unsuitable for UBR and for outdoor FWA? Because of this limitation. Because if you look at 6 GHz has only low power indoor and very low power outdoor, 53 dBm point-to-point is not permitted, and standard power is also not permitted in 6 GHz band because of the potential interference that it is going to cause to the satellite. So, the power density limits and the EIRP cap prevents long-range point-to-point usage. No provision for 53 dBm high power usage in 5 GHz as in 5 GHz band in 6 GHz band. UDR style connection will not be available in 6 GHz band because standard power 36 dBm is not permitted. Now, there is a possibility for the operator. They can use 36 dBm with a lot of antenna design constraints so as to prevent side lobes to go into the satellite, provided they use AFC, which is called automatic frequency coordination, a system which is being deployed in US. Same can be deployed to protect the backhaul link. The backhaul link, which is already operating, the operators are already using backhaul links in the 6 GHz band. Those backhaul links can be protected using AFC. Now, if they don't care about the backhaul links, they can dismantle those backhaul links, then AFC is not required. But you still have to protect the satellite, and therefore your antenna design, the transmission design has to be steered in such a way that the side lobes do not cause interference into the satellite. So it will not be as conventional devices which you are using in the 5 GHz band, right? The stakeholder conflict will now begin and lobbying will begin. Because of this conflict, which I explained to you, every stakeholder has got different kind of interest. The operators will like the power levels of 6 GHz band to be made available, at the par with 5 GHz band, so that UBR can be implemented in 6 GHz band also. Apple will like to have the same capabilities of 5 GHz band in 6 GHz band so that they can have seamless connectivity like the proprietary technology they'd have for connecting fast data rate. Now, if they want to implement those things, then the satellite has to be pulled down. The ISRO satellite has to be pulled down, and the government has to take that into consideration, because those Apple devices, if they breach the power density limits, which are given here specifically, then those power density limits can create so much interference, the satellites can, the power of the satellites can be, the performance can get diminished, and also the Wi-Fi performance on the 6 GHz band, just like what we are experiencing in 5 GHz band, right? So there will be conflict between different stakeholders and the overall larger interest of the nation. So 6 GHz is not same as the 5 GHz band, which I've already explained. 5 GHz coexistence is possible, enabled by different rules. by different blocks of spectrum, which I already showed you. Same is not possible in 6 GHz band because of the national services of ISRO. If ISRO satellites are pulled down, then you can actually have the same capability as 5 GHz band, except the Apple Bluetooth technology, the proprietary Bluetooth technology, which will definitely cause the Wi-Fi performance to deteriorate. Applying same rules over both the bands are risky. Uplink interferences reduce Wi-Fi performance and spectrum chaos. So DOT's role in evidence-based decision making is needed. DOT must retain low power model only for 6 GHz band. If they want to increase the high power, dismantle ISRO satellites. Resist pressure from increasing power limit and relax PSD limit, because PSD limits are extremely important, because otherwise the Wi-Fi performance will get diminished. Protect ISRO from consumer Wi-Fi and wearable devices experience. Policy must prioritize national interest and technology sustainability. So that's all, friends, in this video. Because this video is so complex, I had to breach my normal time of 20 minutes, 25 minutes. I hope that you understood the overall thing. It is extremely difficult for me to convey this whole technical issues in a small period of block of time. I hope that you found this video useful, and thanks for listening till the end, and I'll come back with a new video and a new topic next time. Thank you very much, friends.